will be Heverin, I'm sorry, will be chairing the meeting. She is on her way down, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the roll. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Elkins.
Present.
Senator Girdler. Senator Harper Angel. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator Meredith.
Present.
Senator Titchener.
Here.
Senator Webb. Senator Westerfield. Senator Wise. Representative Baker.
Here.
Representative Banta.
Here.
Representative Kleins.
Here.
Representative Decker.
Present.
Representative Dietz.
Here.
Representative Elliott. Representative Fleming.
Present.
Representative Gooch. Representative Proctor. Representative Raymond. Representative Riley. Representative Rourks.
Here.
Representative Wilner.
Here.
Representative Wilson. Co-Chair Carroll.
Here.
Co-Chair Heverin.
Present. Okay, it looks like we have a quorum to do business. Thank you all for being here. I will probably be late to my own funeral, unfortunately. We've got a full first meeting agenda for families and children. This is our very first interim joint committee hearing. We're very excited to really focus on families and children across Kentucky over the next few months as we prepare for our 2024 session. We're going to go a little off the agenda, and we're going to start with the administrative regulation. Pursuant to authority granted in KRS Chapter 13A, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services has chosen to defer committee consideration of 902 KAR 20-480. So now the only regulation before the committee today for review is 910 KAR 001-180. Does anyone have any questions related to the regulations? Seeing no questions, the administrative regulation shall be considered reviewed by the committee. Back to the beginning of the agenda, our first guest for today, we will be talking about the federal early childhood policy landscape. Our first presentation will be from Laura via Zoom. And is it Kaloe?
It's Kaloe, thank you.
Okay. I have a weird last name, and so, I don't want to say weird. It's hard to pronounce. So, yes, I respect that. So please introduce yourself for the record, Laura, and then you can begin your presentation.
Okay, so this is a sound check. Can everybody hear me okay? Are we
Yes.
good on this? Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we'll see if that's going to work. And slides up. And I think you have a copy of this in your packet. So somebody give me a thumbs up or tell me we're good and I will start. Great.
Yep,
Thank
we're
you.
good.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm Laura Kaloe, and I am a senior policy advisor to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And as you know, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation has prioritized early child care on its agenda for the last several years. And so we thought it would be very helpful in partnership with your chamber there in Kentucky to give you just a quick overview of the federal policy climate, federal policy initiatives that are happening. And I'm going to see if I can get my slides to advance here. It's not working. Let's see if I can get it to work. Here we go. So to ground us all, we thought it would be very helpful to just remind the committee that there are several key lines in the federal budget from which the state receives annual appropriations funding from the federal government. So we thought we'd start with that and talk about also what's in the tax code. And just we'll get to the upshot. There are no major plans for any further action by the federal government in this Congress. And so we thought just giving you a baseline on this and then talking about some of the initiatives that are underway and would be very helpful to you today. And I'm happy to stop and take questions along the way. So just a quick reminder, in the federal budget, we have 4 major line items that reflect and support early child care. The Child Care and Development Block Grant, CCDBG is its acronym, also known as the Child Care Development Fund. This is where I just pulled some numbers just to give one example. In this fiscal year, the state of Kentucky is receiving about 139 million plus in CCDBG. This is a $32 million increase from fiscal year 22. And so I just wanted to provide a little baseline in terms of the annual appropriations that come through that process. Head Start and Early Head Start are another line item, the preschool development grants that come to the state, and also the nation's special education law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And through Part C of this program, the state receives funding to support children and their families for early intervention and support services for children before they enter kindergarten. And as I noted, there are no new federal child care programs expected in the 118th Congress. And so it's important to just know that these are the monies and the annual appropriations that will continue to flow to the states. The tax incentive programs can get a little convoluted. So these are wonky terms and they have similar acronyms. So I thought I'd just walk through each of these in the tax code and remind you all what the tax incentives are. There's the Child Independent Care Tax Credit. This is a non-refundable credit to families who have young children in childcare. $3,000 a year for one child, $6,000 for two. And then the next program, the employer-sponsored child independent care assistance, employers can decide to add in to this program and add something on, or they can set up a separate employer-sponsored care assistance program. And so these two can be connected, or the employer can do something separate and distinct for their employees as a tax incentive. Then there is the employer-provided child care credit. We call this 45F, as in Frank in the tax code. This is for employers specifically and provides $150,000 tax incentive for them to provide on-site or other flexible childcare support. We know through the data that not many employers take advantage of this. Just we think maybe because of the 150K for some businesses isn't worth the paperwork for some. And so we do see an underutilization of that particular credit. And then we've also put here the child tax credit, which is refundable, and it is cash in families' pockets when they have young children under 17. This is $2,000 per child. But we do see this as a benefit because you can use it for childcare. It is an allowable use of those funds. So I'm going to stop there for a minute and we'll go on to the federal stimulus money, but I wanted to see if there are any questions about what we've just put forward here.
Laura, I think we will hold questions until the end of the presentation.
Oh, great. No problem. Okay, so then this is a reminder, and I know you've been discussing these stimulus and making good use of your stimulus funding in the state, but this is a reminder that over the course of 3 pieces of legislation, states have received significant investments in early child care. And we know that you've received, to the tune of, I don't know, in the $760 million range. And as you can see and know, there is a deadline on the bulk of these funds, which they do expire. The need to obligate is September 30 of this year. And we have some data that was just provided to the Senate in a hearing about a month ago. This is what's reported to the Health and Human Services. You may have more accurate data, but it shows that about 733 million are expiring. You still have some supplemental CCDGB money that is available through September 30 of 2024. And a link to this report was provided in your materials if you want to read it. It was provided to the Senate about a month ago. Moving on, when the Biden administration could see that Congress was not going to take action and provide anything additional, any policy or any further funding, they made a decision when the CHIPS Act was implemented and rolled out by the U.S. Department of Commerce early this year to add a new requirement that was announced in March of this year for the CHIPS program. And so, as you know, this CHIPS program is meant to be a long-term growth and sustainability program for our country to construct, expand, and modernize semiconductor facilities and to create quality jobs and provide a way for our country to develop these chips without having to rely on foreign entities. in the process of rolling this out, the Biden administration did announce that any companies who want to apply for $150 million or larger funds in their application, they must provide a plan to provide facility and construction workers with access to affordable, accessible, reliable, and high quality childcare. They did not put any further requirements here except that they recommended that these plans should be developed with state and local government officials such as you, childcare administrators, and other stakeholders. And then for businesses that are applying for proposing for fewer than 150 million, they basically said, we'd like to see a plan to the greatest extent feasible by these companies. And they want the plans to include on or near site childcare, prearranged agreements. They didn't prescribe how the childcare should be provided, but there is some language in there about how to shore up and try and reinforce and support access to childcare providers, because as you know, the ability to provide childcare because of the childcare industry challenges is significant. So then a month later, the administration also issued an executive order that we thought we might want to remind you about, and that is the High Quality Care and Caregivers Executive Order. This was issued to all federal agencies and was a request by the Biden administration to identify, consider, review, and determine ways to improve access to childcare and to make all efforts to improve jobs and support caregivers in the locations of the federal agencies. And recently, I just sent a check to the IRS, and my center is there in Lexington, Kentucky. And I'm reminded that you have this and probably other federal agencies that are working within the state. And so they have been issued this executive order to try and improve the status of access to childcare through their efforts. Now, this is a partisan recommendation. There are lots of unanswered questions, but this is, again, the administration trying to make some effort because Congress is not going to get this done get anything done in the before the election. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Do any of our committee members have questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you coming and being a resource for us.
Thank you.
We will move on to our next. Before we hit our next agenda item, I do want to let the committee members have an opportunity if they have anyone they would like to introduce. Please take this time now. Representative Rourks.
Thank you, Chair. I have with me today my cousin in shadow for the day. This is Forrest Thompson. He wanted to come shadow Health Services and Family and Children's today as an advocate for the 501, sorry, not 501, the 1915C waivers, as he is on one and he is currently on the waiting list for SCL. So I just wanted to spotlight him and thank him for being here today.
If everyone will please make Forrest feel welcome. Senator Harper Angel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to introduce an old friend who's been around this Capitol for many, many years, advocating for individuals with disabilities and mental health issues, brain injuries, and it's Mary Haas. So good to see her back. She's also from Louisville, and I'd like the committee to welcome her.
Please make Mary feel welcome. Any other members seeking special recognition? Representative Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm honored to have Jack Little with me during this entire interim. He recently graduated from Boyle County High School and will be a freshman at the University of Georgia in the fall. So I'm glad to have Jack with me, and he's going to be around this summer, so keep him in your prayers since he's in my office. So thank you.
Please make him feel welcome. And I've just received notice that we have a special birthday today from the gentleman from Grayson. Steve Meredith is 70 years old, y'all. Let's make him feel very welcome and happy birthday. I will pay for that later, I'm sure. All right, back to the agenda. We have number 3, Family Child Care Network of Kentucky, stabilizing and growing family child care homes across the Commonwealth. If our presenters will please make their way up to the table. They are members from the Family Child Care Network. Please, when you get to the table, if you will introduce yourself for the record. And make sure the microphone, you hit the microphone button. When it's green, that means that it's on.
I'm Debbie Link with the Child Care Council of Kentucky.
Becky Stacy with Appalachian Early Childhood Network.
Sandy Woodall with EC Learn Northern Kentucky.
Awesome. You all may go on.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the committee, co-chairs, and members of the committee for having us here today. My name is Debbie Link with the Child Care Council of Kentucky and the Family Child Care Network. During today's presentation, we will give an overview of the Family Child Care Network, highlight family child care realities, and offer recommendations for the stabilization and growth of family child care. The mission of the Family Child Care Network in Kentucky is to recruit and support in-home families and communities to increase and sustain access to quality early learning experiences. Our family child care specialists assist providers from start to STARS, meeting providers where they are and assisting them throughout the process of opening their in-home child care through the Kentucky All-Star rating system that we will soon be doing starting in July. This network is comprised of 5 resource and referral agencies that serve family child care homes. Cumberland and Eastern Mountain Region is served by the Appalachian Early Childhood Network. The Lakes and Two Rivers regions are served by Western Kentucky University. Salt River Trail is served by both Western Kentucky and EC Learn. The Northern Bluegrass area is served by EC Learn. The Jefferson region is served by Community Coordinated Child Care, and the Southern Bluegrass area is served by the Child Care Council of Kentucky. There are currently 49 registered providers throughout the state. While this makes up a small number of the family child care, they help fill a need. Registered providers are typically family members, friends, or neighbors who care for children in their homes. They can provide care for up to 3 unrelated or 6 children if they are a part of a sibling group and related to the provider, but not to exceed 8, including their own children. There are currently 205 certified homes across the state. In a certified family child care home, the provider can care for up to 10 children, including those related to the provider in their home. By the way, these are all pictures from children across the state or family child care homes across Kentucky. There are currently 39 licensed Type 2 family child care homes across the state. A Type 2 family child care home is a child care program in the home of the primary licensee that typically cares for 7 to 12 children, including those related to the licensee. These providers also have to meet qualifications to be a director. Now we're going to talk about the benefits of being in a family child care home. There are many benefits to choosing a certified or Type 2 family child care home. Siblings can attend together and benefit from a mixed age group learning. They have lower teacher-child ratios. They are licensed and offer quality, safe, home-like environments. They are licensed. Some have the availability of non-traditional hours to meet the needs of second, third, and weekend workers. They can choose a provider that meets their culture, background, and values while building lifetime relationships. Now that we've gone over what we are, I'm going to let Becky tell us a little bit of our stories about who we are.
Good afternoon. As I said, my name is Becky Stacy. I'm the director of the Appalachian Early Childhood Network in Hazard. I am also a retired kindergarten teacher, and so my colleagues not so jokingly refer to me as the storyteller of the group because I did that for many years. In my area, the past almost year, we've been recovering from a devastating flood, and once the short-term needs were met and we moved into long-term, we found that it just exacerbated our need for childcare in the area. And I always like to share a story with from one of my families, a lady who lost her husband in the flood. She had childcare worked out up to that point. After that, when she went back to work, she found that there was no childcare now that she didn't have family to help. And I couldn't lead her anywhere because we didn't have the spots for her. And so when we look at childcare, especially in eastern Kentucky, because geographically it's a long way to get anywhere when you're in eastern Kentucky, our parents benefit from family childcare homes because they're in their neighborhoods. Lots of times it's people that they know who have been babysitters for a long time, but we would rather for them to be childcare providers. And so as we start, as Debbie said, we lead people through this, showing them that not only can you provide a service, but you can also own your own business. And so as we look at, a lot of people have left the workforce and during COVID, and then especially with our flood, a lot of women, especially in our area, we found that we can help them get back into the workforce. If childcare is something that they want to do, we can help them do that. We want to make sure that they're able to sustain and able to provide high quality care as well. And so when we look at family childcare homes, we think that's the best for our area, and we hope to make sure we can continue that work. So Sandy is going to tell us about, I'm sorry?
Margaret first.
Oh, okay.
So we have a family child care provider with us, Margaret Commodore, and we're going to ask her to come up and share a little bit about her realities.
Hi, I'm Margaret Commodore. Thank you for having me. I'm the director of the Family Child Care Center for Kitty Castle in Newport, Kentucky, and I've been a child care provider for over 20 years, and I enjoy every moment of it. I started my business when my youngest child was born, and I decided to that there was a priority to have her in my home while helping the community. My original vision was to change a career when my youngest child started to attend kindergarten. I quickly realized that I was invested in the children and the families in my community, providing a safe learning environment for them to thrive and grow. Currently, my youngest daughter is now 20 years old, and she's my assistant, and she's going to college, and she's going to be an early childhood educator. Over the past 20 years, there have been a variety of challenges and pitfalls impacting my small business. The additional COVID relief dollars have been beneficial to sustain the cost of educational materials required to provide safe education in my home, as well as the cost of nutritious meals. Some children only receive few meals some days, which are the meals that I provide in my home. I'm afraid of uncontrolled in-home family child care increasing due to inflation risks and the health and safety of our youngest citizens. In my program, I provide educational care 6 days a week with flexible hours that supports businesses that have employees with working non-traditional hours. Employees need the opportunity to have alternate childcare timeframes outside their traditional hours. I have served several families that rely on my support and resources from Child Care Assistance Program. Without these resources, my family couldn't afford quality child care. Family in-home child care provides an affordable option for families with smaller ratios and home environment, allowing siblings to stay together. I value the relationships. The impact I have on their daily lives fills my heart with pure joy and happiness. I love educating children in my care and treating them as if they were my own. I continue to be a family child care provider as the children need me to have a safe, solid foundation and life success for their education. As an example, I would like to share a beautiful text message that I received from one of my parents. And this is what she texts. My son is talking so highly of you and said, "You are a lovely woman. You guys mean the world to me. It means so much to me that I have you and that I can leave my babies with you and trust they are safe until I return. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be the voice for those who look forward to a bright future, and thank you for having me."
So, in addition to that wonderful story, I'm going to share some milestones from the Family Child Care Network and elevating family child care. Our colleagues who are in the audience, Community Coordinated Child Care, 4C in Louisville, helped move an initiative in March of 2022 when Louisville Metro Council unanimously approved an ordinance that eased the zoning restrictions in residential areas that prevented child care providers from opening in certain areas. The previous land development code restrictions prevented the expansion of certified family child care homes to larger family child care homes or Type 2 centers. Since the change, one Type 2 center has opened, one is currently awaiting inspection, and 2 more are in process. Over the establishment since 2021, we have grown in recruiting 171 in-home regulated child care providers. While this number does not affect the overall number of increase, it does sustain family child care in our state and eliminates the decline over the past 10 years. We have 54 family child care $5,000 startup grants that have been awarded. You'll see on this map that the areas where they have been awarded. There are 19 counties that have been impacted by these startup grants. So we have some policy recommendations for you today. We are asking that we act on the guidance of the Early Childhood Education Task Force, that they looked at maintaining child care assistance program to improve improvements to the family eligibility, child care worker access, and transition period duration, which you heard Margaret speak to, of her family's need that to receive quality care. Establishing a cost model method for setting CCAP providers' reimbursement rates based on the true cost of quality. Margaret spoke to that about the educational materials needed and the nutritious meals needed for quality care. And then ensuring the implementation of the Employee Child Care Assistance Partnership, ECAP. With non-traditional hours and weekends, employers can partner with in-home family child care to offer this benefit to their employees. Looking at policy recommendations particularly targeted for family child care homes. Again, ensuring the continuation of the family child care home startup grants. Those really help in decreasing barriers around zoning costs and materials needed to provide that safe learning quality environment. And then the collaborative study in formalizing zoning regulations. We've had some growth, but we can't wait to have facilitated growth of childcare services while continuing to ensure the safe, appropriate land use and land control as we move forward into 2023. And then the continuation of education scholarships. This is a great way for family home providers to engage in their professional development and move up in that quality system by having their degrees starting with a CDA. And then finally, this is a federal ask, and that is stabilizing the reimbursement payments for child adult care food program. During the COVID relief dollars, everyone enrolled in the food program received a Tier 1 reimbursement, and that will decrease to Tier 2 moving forward. The example, Tier 1, you are qualified to get that reimbursement rate if you live within a school district that has 50% or more children or families receiving free or reduced lunches. And then it drops down to Tier 2 if you are not within that jurisdiction. An example, Tier 1 for lunch, a provider will receive $2.61 per meal per child with a Tier 1 reimbursement. When you move to Tier 2, you will receive $1.58 per meal per child for lunch, as an example. So that's $1 decreased. So again, thank you for having us, and we would take any questions if you have them.
Okay. Representative Raymond?
Thank you all for being here. I wanted to call out that Louisville Metro Council zoning ordinance was passed by our now colleague, Senator Cassie Chambers Armstrong, and I know she'd like to take it up at a statewide level next year. I understand how family child care homes benefit rural areas. I wondered if we could call out the potential to work with our families in denser urban areas like Louisville, families who don't feel comfortable in more formal child care structures, families that don't speak English, families of different faith backgrounds like Muslim families, and some communities of color. Do you see a lot of potential there?
Yes, we do. I know Louisville really focuses on the Hispanic community, and I can bring Cora Gdansky up to talk a little more about that. Also, in the 20 counties I serve, we have a high population of Hispanic families, and we're really looking at how we can support those families as well. There are some challenges, of course, with documentation and those things that we're looking at how can we decrease those barriers as well. For example, in the urban area with the grants that happened, Jefferson is the highest one that received those grants. They had 21 of those 54. So we definitely look at the urban and rural areas as well.
Thank you.
One more quick thing to add. When we talk about children with special needs as well, they would benefit from a smaller, child to staff ratio. And so, having that opportunity in all settings across the whole state is really something we're looking for, because that can really fill in a gap that we have when you're talking about that, and just getting care for those kids is hard sometimes. So they jump from center to center to center because they don't fit the need that they have. I just had this discussion this morning with someone. So definitely for the kiddos with special needs that benefit from that smaller group setting is another benefit that we're trying to push.
Co-Chair Carroll?
I would ask, Margaret, could you please come back up to the desk? If you don't mind, talk a little bit about the struggles that you have and what are the barriers and loving your kids and making a difference. That is awesome. But what the nuts and bolts of what you do, how do you decide what rates, how many of your kids get child care assistance? Are there months that you barely make it? To kind of help us as we look towards developing policy and ensuring that this type of provider grows throughout the state. I want to, is it sustainable the way it is? Is it month by month? What are your struggles?
Well, we try to do lesson plans. I do lesson plans, but it's, when I say try, it's a struggle because of the materials that we need. It's very costly. You have to, when you're doing your planning, it's hard because the cost of materials and the things that you want to do are limited on what you plan.
Do you charge a fee to the parents for that type of thing, or is there just a?
I do not. Right now, I have me and my daughter and myself. We work 3 shifts. She works 1, and then I work 2, or we rotate. Like today, she's working first shift, obviously, but we don't. I have 21 right now enrolled in all 3 shifts, and those are all state-funded children. I only have about 4 self-pay, which I call self-pay or cash-paying children, and it's hard to even get a copay out of these parents. They don't even have the money to feed these children sometimes, or clothes. It's sad when they come in. It's heartbreaking, to see. I try to help as much as I can, but from month to month, some days, I mean, it's hard. And there's months where I don't have anything left or enough to do what I want to do. I don't know. That's why I'm here. I've never spoken in front of anyone before in my life, and I'm trying to help the kids.
I don't want to get too far into, the business part of it. We will probably have some smaller group meetings, and we're really trying to understand with our centers throughout the state and different types of providers to really look at the financial component of this and how much revenue is generated. It's, what's the average profit? Those are the things that we really need to know as we make policy related to any continued assistance, financial assistance. And I've been able to do that at my local level, meeting with some providers, but we really need to have a conversation to understand, from month to month, what do you make? And on average, at the end of each year, how much money do you make? And so that will kind of help us to formulate policy and maybe address some of the issues that affect your profit margin, your ability to sustain your program to take care of your kids. And especially, we talked about that this morning. What you are doing is really in our rural areas. We've got to look at that. And we've got to promote that as much as we can. And I know you all do that, but we're going to have to kick it up, and we're going to have to go out and start directly recruiting and make it easy for this type of center to open. And, I'm excited to hear about the folks that are using the grants, but we're still nowhere near. We haven't even begun to get where we need to be. But we really need to understand what the profits are, what the costs are, and where can we make a difference to make sure that we grow these centers throughout the state. That's all I got.
We're going to take one more question, then we're going to move on to the next item. Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask a question to you all. I just want to dovetail on Senator Carroll's comments from a financial point of view. And I would just, I think Becky has left. Is that correct? Or is she still here? I just want to ask, can you come back up? Thank you. Becky, I was looking at, this is sort of my geek way of looking at financials. I look at your 990s, which I'm pretty familiar with. You went from 160 up to 460 from 2020 to 2021. I assume that's a grant. Bravo for doing that and landing it. Could you just give me just an update on where that came from, and then how did you use it? Because I think it's my tip of the hat to you for doing it. I just want to highlight that.
That is from our Family Child Care Network of Kentucky.
Okay.
That is, we're mostly funded through that right now.
Okay.
And some other private funding.
Okay, and how did you use that money?
That was used for materials for providers to help with startup. We had the $5,000 state grant as well to help with startup. That was used for training for our providers so that they are providing high quality child care within their homes. We also used it for travel to make sure we could visit these rural areas to help with technical assistance.
Sure.
And lots of times we would provide a startup computer and printer to get their business going, or QuickBooks if they needed that for their business, and business training as well, which we do still need more of because we need our providers to understand that they're business owners.
Right.
So that's something we're working on.
Well, good. Well, that's congratulations. I just want to highlight that because that's really caught my eye when I'm looking at 9 days and so forth. I do appreciate that. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just want to ask Debbie, along the same line, from 2020 to 2021, it was something about 15 to 20% reduction. How did you compensate for that? How did you deal with it? That's a good hit to the budget from a revenue standpoint, and obviously expenses are probably staying the same.
Yeah, and we struggle with that too. And same as Becky, the Family Child Care Network has been, a blessing to us as far as being able to really hit the ground running, staffing wise, to be able to build that staff to provide quality care, for these people. We do a lot of training, technical assistance for these providers, but it was hard, during that. And I'm newer to this role, so I didn't live through that piece of it with them. But I came on about a year and a half ago. So, and we've continued to grow, which is good. But that is, with a lot of grant funding and supports, that we've found. So we do partner with United Way, different things in order to bring funds in.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And I just want to, like I said, I want to maybe make a suggestion, and it's really for my edification. I'm on the A&R committee as well as some members here as well. But I think it'd be a really good perspective to give us a holistic approach to what you described today, and attach the dollars on that and see where it fits into the budget, because what you're providing, I think, is vital in order for these parents to go to work, to bring home the quote-unquote bacon in order to put food on the table. So so I think it'd be good for us to get a perspective, because we're budget's coming up, and so if you can get us an idea of where things fit and how much what the needs are, I would think that would be very, very beneficial, at least from my point of view. And I'm sure Senator Carroll, he's in it more than I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you all for presenting. We greatly appreciate it. Margaret, you did a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Next, we will have the Kentucky YMCAs come up, please. Make sure to introduce yourself for the record. And you may proceed. Make sure your green button's on when you speak at the microphone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Alexander, the CEO of the Owensboro Family YMCA.
Paula Anderson, the CEO of the YMCA of Central Kentucky, based in Lexington.
Laura Luder, Executive Director for the YMCA of Greater Louisville.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for inviting us, and Senator Carroll as well for inviting us to participate today. Very, very important issues that you're dealing with. We want to especially thank each member of the General Assembly for the funding mechanisms that you have provided during this pandemic that we have recently perhaps exited from. It's been a lifesaver for many of our organizations. We're today representing the Alliance of Kentucky Ys. Those are 16 associations throughout the state of Kentucky, from the Union County and Mayfield area across the state, Ashland and Pikeville. We have 16 member associations with several branches that also serve not only branches of a Y, but also serving in several schools and other remote locations for our child care circumstances and programs. We also want to also remind you that we were very key and instrumental in trying to respond to the pandemic early on. I can remember April 6th of 2019 very clearly, because that was the first day that we opened for emergency and essential child care services for those workers that needed us. And there were several of our Ys that did that at that particular time. We were trying to be of service in a very scary situation, and my staff responded very heroically in that regards, and we thank you for supporting us in that regards as well. We are also, as 16 associations, we have challenges of scale. So we're very small, especially in our rural and smaller communities, and very large, of course, in some of the metropolitan areas. However, our challenges that we have with childcare usually are on the same level, just scaled depending on the size of the association. We also want to explain, too, that we believe in a safe environment for our children. We're not here to complain or whine. We're here to try and help with the solutions and offer recommendations that will make our child care safer and also more effective, as well as grow. As Senator Carroll was talking about the increase, we're very concerned. The material that you have in your handout gives you a lot of background information that you probably are already aware of. But we are very concerned about the fact that the number of licensed child care services and organizations have fallen significantly from 4,400 in 2013 to somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2,400 in 2019. And it's a little hard for us to really gain an understanding of what is current as far as the licensed number of organizations right now, but it still continues to be a concern as far as the opportunity for our adults to house and be able to find service for their child care. The child care, let me just refer to this. Let me just give you a couple of statistics, if I can, on our first slide here. Our ECL situation with early childhood development, we have about 1,100 kids in our services right now, with about 600 on our waiting list. Out of school time, 3,500 children with about 500 on our wait list. We are not sure exactly where we stand as a group of Ys in this being the largest or one of the largest providers in the state, but I think that we are. Nationwide, we can attest that the 800 associations of the Y throughout the United States are the largest child care provider collectively. We like to think that we do offer a significant amount of child care, though, in the state of Kentucky. The reason for our visit today that we'd like to hit on and emphasize concern these four particular bullet points. The license challenges that we have, that we are experiencing, and we are sure that other child care providers are in that same circumstance. We want to talk about that not as a complainer, but also providing solutions or recommendations. We're not out to cause any difficulties with our cabinet. We do respect the fact that we need regulation, and we want to continue to work with the cabinet and with the General Assembly in any way that we can to provide for that. We also are, as it's already been talked about, the recruiting and staffing of our organizations is a real key concern at this particular point. You just heard from the previous testimony, and Margaret did a wonderful job of sharing that information with you. We have the same concerns about attracting and keeping, as well as training our individuals that are working with our kids. The increased operational costs, we just talked about that, or you just heard about that. I'm sorry that the previous testimony gave you that information as well. We are experiencing that same problem at this particular point. That includes the increase in staff costs that have been necessitated with the inflation of our wages that we have had to provide. And then finally, meeting educational and social and emotional needs of our children post-pandemic. We were thrown into that pandemic just as you were, and we tried to respond in the very best that we could, simply with our staff that were not necessarily trained educators, but we certainly tried to respond in proper fashion for that as well. I'd like to turn this over now to Laura and ask her to give you some recommendations concerning the regulations.
Thanks, John. Again, my name is Laura Luder. I am the branch executive for our school-age child care programs in Louisville. I'm getting microphone assistance. I'm not using my camp voice. If I didn't have this, you all could totally hear me. It's just an honor to be here today to talk about the kids that I represent. It's 48 child care programs and thousands of kids before and after the school bell and anytime the school is out of session. And we have a phenomenal child care community in the Commonwealth. One thing that I would really like to advocate for today would be school-age child care regulations. Our current child care regulations are really geared for our early childhood folks, and the school-age recommendations or regulations are kind of just thrown in there. And, you know, there's a big difference in the servicing of those type of children compared to a school-age environment that we're in. A lot of times we are in recreational spaces, gyms, cafeterias that look nothing like a early learning center. So we also need those regulations to align with our STARS quality rating system. It's almost like we're trying to shove a square peg into a circle, or did I say that wrong? Maybe the other way around. They just don't really fit together, and we need help with that. There has been this talk for a long time, and I think that it has getting getting the attention in the childcare community. We have wonderful partners in the state who know that this is an issue. Our current Youth Development Accreditation Certificate is something that's new. I think it's open for review from the community. It's a great way to professionalize the out-of-school time providers. However, we do not have enough accredited training in offering care for school-age child care folks. There's just not a lot of training out there. You can take lots of classes in our ECE TRIS, but it's not related to school-age child care. And we want the best quality training for our youth workers. There are many agencies that will help us with this. CAIOSA is the Kentucky Out of School Time Alliance, which is the affiliate of the National After School Alliance. They stand ready to help us with that. Childcare Aware is willing to pitch in and do what they can to do it for us. Our 4Cs in Louisville and the Child Care Council with Ms. Debbie, who just testified. So we just really need help with understanding that we have different needs in a preschool program. And then lastly, I would like to say we would also like to have clear guidelines on child care exemptions and who needs to be licensed and who doesn't. There seems to be some sort of confusion in the Commonwealth on what qualifies for a child care license exemption and who has to be licensed. And oftentimes it varies from county to county. And we would just like some clear guidelines and expectations for that. And again, it's a privilege to speak to you all today. I have lots of little cute kids that allowed me to be here today and advocate for them and the training and regulations for them. And now I'm going to turn it to Miss Paula.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us today. And I want to echo what John said and also let you know we have some of our other Kentucky Y CEOs and staff here just to support today and answer any questions if we can't. I'm gonna tackle this two ways. I'm the CEO of the YMCA of Central Kentucky. That's Lexington, Frankfort, some surrounding counties where we really don't have facilities right now. But I'm also going to talk to you as a mom who was very dependent on quality child care when I raised two boys. And they benefited from in-home care, as you heard about earlier when they were very young. Then they benefited from quality early childhood centers, and then they benefited from YMCA after-school programs, summer camps, and youth sports. So I have board members sometimes who look at us and say, "Gee, this childcare is such a struggle. Why are we still doing this childcare?" And I can't turn away from it. I just can't at this point. But I'm gonna be very transparent to Senator Carroll's request on kind of what some of our struggles are financially around childcare. And two things we know about childcare, if you're in this space, right? We know that children who have quality early childhood education and care opportunities are more ready for kindergarten and do better in school, and those learning gaps are addressed to some degree at least. And we also know that child care is a critical component of the workforce. So with those two things in mind, that is how I'm going to address my remarks to early childhood centers. And I'm going to talk specifically about my early child care centers. So we do after school too. We do a lot of after school, and we do it in schools, and we do it in Ys, and we do it in different spaces. But we have two child care centers serving children from 6 weeks at one center to age 5. And at our other center, we no longer do infant care because we simply can't staff it. So in that center in Frankfort, we're serving ages 1 or 2. 1 until they get ready to go to school. We serve about 300 children daily. And we have used all of our stimulus money over the last 2 years to increase our staff salaries pretty much. I mean, everything else went to either safety concerns, learning materials, or staff salaries. So 300 children a day. Our rates are market rates for Lexington and Frankfort. We're not out of the park with anybody else. We accept CCAP at both of those centers. One center uses it more than the other. And our staff salaries increased 30% because of the ARPA money that we were able to use. So staff salaries have increased 30%. We have not increased tuition 30% because that would put the cost of care out of the reach of most of the families that we serve. Even the center that we have that is started as a corporate center, 30% increase in tuition would create a hardship for most of those families. And if you have more than one child in daycare, childcare between the age of 6 weeks and 5 years, you're essentially paying the equivalent of a mortgage payment on a monthly basis. If you're paying the full fee, that's not unusual. It wouldn't be any different in Louisville or Bowling Green or Glasgow or Owensboro or Pikeville. Here's the reality: childcare was in trouble before COVID. We've seen this coming for a long time. I remember coming to Advocacy Day in 2019 and speaking with then Representative Kelly Flood about child care concerns in our state at that time. And so what COVID did was bring in this stream of revenue or support from the money to help sustain child care through the pandemic. As that money sunsets, we call it the cliff. The cliff is coming. That is going to make a huge, huge difference in the child care environment in our community. Here's what we're seeing. As the person from the chamber mentioned earlier, funding is scheduled to sunset by the end of 2023. We are seeing already centers close, and they're citing, one specifically in Frankfort, cited the end of funding and ongoing staffing challenges. Some centers are reducing staff salaries back to pre-COVID levels. To those centers, I say, we're recruiting because I'm not going to reduce salaries back to pre-COVID levels. That just creates a different problem. And all of us are looking at this and assessing the financial viability of our programs. So I'm going to be very transparent about these two centers, one in Frankfort, one in Lexington. The center in Frankfort has staff turnover of 67%. Even with salaries that range between $15 and $18 an hour for full-time, insurance, paid time off, and a pension contribution. That is something that Y centers are able to do that a lot of private centers just can't do, that kind of benefit program. That center serves 90 children right now, ish. It's licensed for about 120, I believe. We have vacancies. We cannot fill the vacancies because we do not have the staff. And if we get the staff, clearly they don't stay long. That has been a real difficult thing. And if you think about childcare too, there's a lot of training involved. There should be a lot of training involved. There's a lot of regulation involved, and there should be a lot of regulation involved. But if you have a 67% turnover in a childcare center, where's your quality? Where's your training? Where's your safety components? Because you're constantly reworking that. The center in Louisville, or in Lexington, sorry, I won't speak for you. My center in Lexington has 30% turnover. I can't remember what it was pre-COVID, but it was even high even then. That center is just tied to a corporate partner who is still providing some subsidy around the building particularly. And it's open to the community now, takes CCAP. That center is also struggling from a staff perspective and has waiting lists for every class group. We do infant care at that center. Infant care is 4 to 1, so you have one teacher for 4 infants, and correct me, Angela, if I'm wrong. But the cost of infant care is very, very high, right? So what does that mean when the funding sunsets? And so here's the transparency, right? Those two centers, when the funding is gone, and we've been audited on our programs so that we know that we're using the funding as it was intended. Those two centers are going to stand to lose more than $250,000 a year. Now, it's a component of what we do, but there aren't many organizations that could take a $250,000 loss on any component of what they do and continue to do it. So we want to be part of this conversation and part of the solution, just as our colleagues who are running family care that's so vital in small communities. I came from a small community. I'm from Burkesville, Kentucky. I understand that there is no child care center in Burkesville, Kentucky. Child care there is run out of homes. I understand that. The volume we have in urban areas is still not enough. We would love to take more children. We can't take them. We've got waiting list for every after-school program. We've got waiting lists for the child care centers. We can't staff it. I was at a meeting last week with some colleagues from Community Action. They're doing $3,000 signing bonuses right now to try to attract staff. This is the staffing environment that we're in, and we've tried just about everything. So I share that with you in just full transparency that the struggle is multifaceted. It's funding, it's the rising cost of supplies, it's building overhead, but it's really 80% of our cost around childcare is in staff. 80% of the cost. So we've got to solve the staffing issue in order to expand the access issue. And then we have to solve the funding issue so that childcare is accessible to all children in our community, not just those who can afford it. And I thank you for the opportunity to come here today. I am more than happy to be as transparent as you need us to be around childcare, because I think it's important that we understand how difficult the situation is, how complicated the situation is, and work together to make sure that we create child care streams that are available to everyone, whether you're in Lexington, Louisville, Pikeville, or Owensboro. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your support and for the opportunity to come here today and really speak to you on behalf of the families that we serve across the Commonwealth.
So, Madam Chair, I would just draw your attention and amplify a couple of things concerning the regulation circumstances. We have a 4-page handout in the packet that offers the challenges, but also recommendations about how those challenges might be solved. We did not want to come with problems and not solutions, so we hope that that will be of benefit to the committee as you debate and distill this information. The other item that I would amplify what Paula was talking about concerning staff shortages within our organizations, that includes all child care facilities, I'm sure, throughout the state. The other side of that coin is we're also concerned about the workforce of our Commonwealth in general. So that would include helping the workforce to be able to get back to work, as it's already been mentioned in previous testimony. We see that constantly at this particular point. I do have one testimony that I thought I would bring to you and just read. It's just a short paragraph, if I may do so.
Quickly, please.
Thank you. I recently moved to Owensboro from Maryland. My husband and I both work full-time, so we have needed some form of child care due to having no family in the area. We have found it to be nearly impossible to find a licensed child care facility that has openings and affordability. We have been wait-listed for several preschools and daycares for fall, giving us no chance of any immediate openings of this summer. It has also been particularly difficult because of some businesses are still listed as child care facilities in Owensboro, but they have actually not been in business anymore. That's just one of the testimonies that we get from the folks that are looking for child care in that regards. This is an attractive couple. They've come to Owensboro and have been attracted to our Commonwealth, and it's becoming difficult for them to remain in the status that they are at this particular point. I'll add one other thing too, because the comment was asked concerning perhaps the minorities or the ethnic groups. We're serving a good bit of that at this particular time. In Owensboro, about 70-75% of our young people are CCAP are on CCAP support at this particular time. We had our first Rwandan couple come to us just a few weeks ago with 2 young people. They did not speak any English. We managed to get their 11 and 5-year-old into our child care program and had some semblance of success in that regards too. we're trying our very best to meet the needs of our community in any way that we possibly can. We thank you very much for the opportunity to share. If you have questions, we'll be happy to answer.
I'm going to be quick on questions. We've got 2 people, and then I would ask, because we've got 2 more presenters, so if you will catch the group afterwards, I would greatly appreciate that. I'm going to kick us off. My question is, you said that you all have 67% turnover in the Frankfurt. Do you all do exit interviews when they leave?
Generally, they leave and just don't come back. It's very rare that we get much notice when child care staff leaves, and so no, we're not. When we have an opportunity, we do an exit interview, but I can't give you good information there.
It's an alarming number.
It is.
And so, I think it's hard for us to say one way or the other whether it's pay or is it culture. What is the root of the causation of leaving? And then, do you all know the national national turnover percentage among child care centers?
I do not. Anybody back there? No, not nationally. We can look and see if we can get that data and share it back.
Okay, I want to. I'm interested in what's comparable. Is that something? But I do. I think you hit the nail on the head by saying that this is a workforce issue across the. It's an issue with our workforce.
Absolutely.
So I will. I know Representative Raymond has a question, and Representative Fleming, and then we will move on. So please be quick.
Hello, thank you all. I'm able to be here today because my baby's at the Northeast YMCA, the one with the water park. Thank you very much. And
Amen.
the Y is walking the walk, everybody. My baby's teacher at the Northeast Y makes $21 an hour and receives benefits. Now, families are paying about $270 a week for that situation, but the continuity and the stability it provides, right, is incredibly beneficial to children. I wanted to also point out that the Y is a leader in innovation and leadership in this space. A strong Y leads to a strong childcare sector across the state. Want to call out something that you all weren't able to get to, which is how you've expanded access to care by teaching others in Louisville. Goodwill recently opened its Excel Center, which is a high school for adults in Louisville, and working with the Northeast YMCA staff, they cracked the code on drop-in childcare that community colleges that KCTCS said could not be cracked. Goodwill and the Y have cracked the code on drop-in childcare and on moving partitions for different age groups at different times of day. We know based on your testimony, we're going to have to subsidize educators, right? Like we need to start saying really, really loudly and really clearly, we're going to have to subsidize educators, and there's a lot of ways to do that. The Division of Child Care, thanks to ARPA money, has offered free child care for child care workers over the last year or two. Let's look at if that's been beneficial and if we should continue that. Could we offer free child care to people who work in other high demand fields? They've offered free degrees for childcare workers. I don't think there's been much receptivity there, but that's something for us to look at. Can we offer different pay incentives in different areas based on need? I know that the Ys in Louisville pay the teachers the same at each center, even though you face very different behavioral challenges at each center. If you incentivized that way, would it help? Could there be a system where childcare teachers, educators, buy into a benefits system? My question has been, could they buy into the Louisville Metro government system? Could they buy into KEHP? And are there pipelines for educators that we haven't fully explored or supported, such as helping immigrants enter our classroom as educators? And can we expand our high school apprenticeship programs? Yes, all of it.
Thank you, Representative Raymond. Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, y'all have an upward pressure from salaries. You have a downward pressure when it comes to caps and so forth. And puts a really big pinch on trying to maintain financial viability and stability. And so what other options do you have, and in particular, what other types of public and private partnerships have you teamed up with in corporation in order for them to provide those services? And I know it's going to be the employees, it's going to be difficult. I get that. Particularly, that is a very, very alarming rate, 67%, even 30%, 15% is bad. So what are public and private partnerships have y'all encountered and what have y'all explored?
I can take that and get your turnover question answered at the same time. Someone looked it up for me. Averaging between 26 and 40% and as high as 70%. So my number was at the higher end of that range, whoever's phone this is. We have a partnership. We have several partnerships, actually, and we've been approached about several other partnerships around childcare. And to this point, the center we run in Lexington is a corporate partnership. It was the Lexmark's corporate childcare center that was, frankly, they came to us and said, can you help us with managing the cost on this? And so we took that on in 2019. Great timing, right? But we have managed to do that. We've helped them reduce their overhead, and we've improved teacher salaries. But they're still they're still subsidizing. That's not even included in the number that I gave you. We've been approached a couple of times during the pandemic, we had corporate partnerships with all of the hospitals in Lexington, the University of Kentucky, to provide childcare for essential workers, and they did subsidize that during COVID for their workers. They paid for their workers. So I think that the concept is out there. I think companies are struggling with the same issues that we are in terms of staff salaries and turnover and benefits cost. And that ball's just not rolling very much just yet for us, at least.
Representative Fleming, could I just add that we are a 501c3 corporation as a group, not as a group, but as individuals. So we are in the fundraising mode. And so that helps to offset some of that as long as our fundraising is successful in that regard. I'll also say that partnering with United Way and other similar organizations has really been a big help. We offer financial assistance. If CCAP does not work for individual families, we try to provide that financial assistance. So we're a little unique in that regard as well. But that's only because of the fundraising that we do. So we do put a great deal of effort as our YMCAs go about seeking those funds in that regard. We're also looking for other community partners. Grants are a big help in that regard as well. But again, sometimes it's a limited dollar circumstance.
Thank you. We are going to go on to our next presentation. We appreciate you all coming and sharing. Our next presentation will be Stephanie Akers and Dr. Bridget Murray. If you could please make your way to the testimony table. All right, I am going to, we're going to push for hopefully 15 minutes. I think everyone was shared that today, but we've gotten a little off track. So I apologize at the end. Of course, we've got to wrap it up. So thank you all very much. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed. Please make sure your microphone is on. You will see a green button.
Stephanie Akers. I'm the director of the Educational Unit for Child Care Services at Morehead State University.
And I'm Dr. Bridget Murray from Henderson Community College.
Please make sure your microphone's on.
Oh, okay. Dr. Bridget Murray, and I'm the Early Childhood Program Coordinator at Henderson Community College.
Hi, I'm Courtney Buchanan. I'm one of the instructors at Morehead State University Early Childhood.
Members of the committee, co-chairs, thank you for the opportunity to be here today to talk to you, to continue this discussion that all the previous testimony. We're here to talk about the importance of the Kentucky Early Childhood Development Scholarship because there are critical needs, as you have heard already, for the early care and education programs in the Commonwealth. So to start off, half of Kentuckians live in a child care desert. A child care desert is basically someone said that there is, in Burkesville, there isn't even a child care center, right? So if we look across the state, there are regions, communities that have no access to child care or very, very limited access to child care. A recent survey asked more than 500 child care providers from 94 Kentucky counties how many more children could they serve if they were fully staffed. And so those responses were that 23% of programs could serve more than 50 additional children each, 21% of programs could serve 21 to 50 more children, and 24% of programs could serve 11 to 20 more children, okay, if they were fully staffed. Okay. And how will child care survive when dollars run out? The childcare industry, as you've already heard, was fragile long before the onset of the pandemic due to low wages, staff turnover, and limited investments in childcare centers. So just a brief summary of some annual incomes that we could look at. So if you are a childcare program teacher, you could expect to be earning somewhere between $15,000 to $31,000 annually, with a median annual income of about $23,000. If you are working in family childcare, you might be looking, and in that way you're also an owner, a business owner, and an administrator. You could be earning as low as $5.50 an hour, up to $22 an hour. So a median income of about $27,000 a year. If you are a child care center director, so that would be a licensed child care center, you would be looking at a median annual income of about $32,000 a year. High quality early education, as we know, is directly correlated with the educational levels of teachers. So many results from research show that higher teacher qualifications are significantly correlated with higher quality early childhood education and childcare environments. Specifically, the education level of teachers or caregivers is positively correlated to overall early childhood education qualities, such as safety, children's health, providing educational care. Right, so we're supporting the developmental growth and development in areas of communication, cognitive development, social emotional development, and then there are also higher ratings in terms of program structure, which would be environment, okay, language, reasoning, all of those specific areas of development. We know that early care and education teachers who receive training in early childhood special education, that is critical to meet the need in the time where we have increasing diagnoses and developmental delays in our population of young children. Okay. And I've also cited some specific research if you're interested in that. Economic research examines that the return on investment for early care and education suggests that there's a tremendous value, ranging from anywhere from $4 to $13 in return for every $1 that is spent as an investment into our early care and education system. So we see higher rates of educational attainment, higher rates of future employment, higher rates of overall health, lower rates of truancy and criminality. Okay. We also know that recent research suggests that community-based early childhood education is linked to meaningful educational and life outcomes, and it is sustained, particularly for children from lower economic backgrounds. There have been very many longitudinal studies that you can reference that support these more recent findings. There has been some studies with meta-analysis of 22 high-quality experimental studies from 1960 to 2016 that on average participation in early childhood education, high-quality early childhood education leads to statistically significant reductions in special education placement, grade retention, and increases high school graduation rates. Okay. We know, right, that high quality early care and education promotes child well-being, right, and carries through the lifespan. So what can we do? What can the Commonwealth do to ensure that the young children in Kentucky thrive? One of the things that we can do is continued funding of the Early Childhood Development Scholarship. It's critical that our child care providers have the continued access to educational opportunities so that they can do the important work that they are charged with and love, as we heard from a provider here, and they want to be there, right? They want to do the work. And so how do we make that attainable for them? This investment supports Kentucky's working families who rely on high-quality childcare, fully staffed programs to care and educate their children so they can be gainfully employed to provide for their families. Okay. I did want to draw your attention to a handout it's a testimonial from a child care administrator from Lexington, Kentucky. Her name is Beth Morton. So you can, she continues to reiterate the issues that she faces with staffing and the importance of having staff who are educated in early childhood education. There's a little bit of information here at Morehead State. We have what's called a CDA. So the CDA is called the Child Development Associate. Is a national credential that teachers who work with young children can attain. And then we also have the Kentucky Director Credential Program. And so that is for staff who are interested in the administrative piece of our child care system. Okay. Those are our entry level credentials, right? But still provide high quality education for teachers who are already in the field, or a way to draw in and recruit teachers who may be thinking about it but would like some training, and this scholarship provides the attainability and the opportunity for them to achieve that goal. We also have bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. Okay, so thank you for supporting Kentucky's children and families, and then Dr. Murray is going to talk to you a little bit more.
My presentation's separate.
Yeah, he didn't pull that up. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Make sure to turn your microphone.
Yep, I got it. To talk to you today about the scholarship program. I actually was a family child care provider for 25 years before I moved into the higher eds. That's like second career for me. And I came at the time when Kids Now went into effect. And I was very, very proud to be involved in that initiative. That was an amazing time. When I would go to a conference, I'd make sure Kentucky was on my nameplate, because I was very proud of, they were being very innovative in using those tobacco settlement money. No one else was doing that. And a part of that was the scholarship that came out of that. And something interesting, no legislator voted against that initiative when it came through. So that was just amazing. So the scholarship did use that funding stream and worked for a long time. But then in 2016, the tobacco settlement money was not allocated to the Kids Now initiative anymore. So the Division of Child Care made the decision, in order to keep a scholarship going, that they would use their civil penalties money, which is assessed whenever a program has a violation of a child care regulation. Generally like $1,000, so a $1,000 civil penalty will cover tuition for less than 2 classes at the community college. So that's really not sustainable. The next one, you have a handout of this in your packet, so it's a little more readable than on the screen. So it's a comparison between what was the Kids Now scholarship and what came about with the ARPA funds. So a lot of similarities in that they have to be working at least 20 hours per week in a regulated child care program. They do FAFSA, so their salaries a lot of times are very, very low, so they do qualify for Pell. So the difference then comes in with Kids Now. They could do the associate degree or bachelor's degree. With the ARPA, there was an additional allocation that was made for directors or administrators to be able to get the master's degree in either child care or Head Start. So that was an addition. Preschool assistants in the Kids Now Scholarship were eligible, but whenever the new funding, they were not because it was geared towards childcare. So, and that was not considered childcare. Head Start staff were not eligible for the Kids Now Scholarship, but they, under the ARPA funds, they are if they are in a licensed Head Start. And there's some difference there because there's some of them that are with blended, and so they did not qualify. They were limited to 9 credit hours per semester with the original Kids Now Scholarship. And so they, and if they wanted to be full-time, if they wanted to do 12 hours, they couldn't because they could only use the scholarship if they took 9 hours. With the ARPA funds, there was no limit on it. And so that was a huge difference. The scholarship was $1,800 per year, tuition only. So that right now at the associate degree level, that covers about 3 courses per year, where with the ARPA funds, that big number there that's for the master's degree, that was at the, I believe that was UK, and that included all the fees and everything at a master's level. The associate degree, you're looking at $22.80 to $32.40 per semester, and the difference is fees. The last 2 stayed the same. The employer pays $50 towards the books, and then the scholars are eligible for a $100 related expense if they're successful in their classes. So who are IECE students? Big variety. We have traditional students that are entering from high school. Some of them have done dual credit. The apprenticeship program is another option that they have possibly completed, and some have done the CDA credential. That is open to them. The big majority are staff that are currently working in licensed child care centers or homes, as we've heard, and they may be doing the CDA credential. They may be seeking, we have several certificate programs, the AAS or the bachelor's degree. Then the owners and directors, they may be getting that CDA credential, the director's credential, the associate, bachelor's, or master's degree. Preschool assistants, this is a real population because they're currently working in a public school system, and they're working under a certified teacher, and they kind of see that as their dream to become that teacher. And then Head Start staff, they may be seeking the CDA credential, the associate degree, or a bachelor's degree. We also have a population that's kind of the non-traditional. They may have been a parent and think this is something they would like to do, or maybe did private care in their home. And then we have a group that are second career. They have a degree, they went in a different direction, but they found their love and they really want to work in early childhood. So they're coming back in to get training for that. All right, so share some good news here. The enrollment in my program, and I will say these statistics are across KCTCS, all programs saw increase. My enrollment increased by 57% when this new scholarship became available. My institutional research guy contacted me and said, what's going on here? Your numbers have really gone up. And I said, it's because we have a new scholarship. We also saw a large increase in the number of students seeking the director's credential. And then this coming fall, over 50% of my students are going to be enrolled and using the scholarship. And what I find is they come in and then they start doing classes and they realize that the scholarship's available. So the number generally, we pick up some more in the spring that see the scholarship. By meeting with a young gal tomorrow that came out of high school, has dual credit, and she wants to do the degree. And in her email, I saw she was working for the school system. And so I said, oh, we're going to talk because you're going to be eligible for the scholarship now that you're working for them. So that is also good news. We will be able to add her. The other thing is the ones that were non-Pell eligible, and these are the ones that really, really would love to do a degree. They, according to Pell, they have the money to do it, but they have families and they have not able to have that income. And so they have came in. A lot of those have came in, and I've retained all of them because they are so happy to have that scholarship now that they can actually complete their degree, or they can start their degree. And some of them are going on for the bachelor's degree. And then my graduation rates and transfer rates have have increased. So just a little bit, some of the positives that came out of the new scholarship. We've removed that credit hour barrier, which was huge. It covers tuitions and fees. Fees can be considerable. And the staff are employed still, that qualification of 20 hours per week in a regulated program, regardless of income level or previous degrees. And so areas for improvement, the Head Start staff and the public school assistants definitely should be included within the scholarship because they're serving that most vulnerable population that we have. The other thing is incentives, as we've talked about, for directors and owners to do, because the qualifications to be a director in Kentucky are extremely low. 3 years experience working with children is what it takes to be a director, and that certainly is not the training, the business sense that they need to be able to do that. So as far as outcomes, parents can have quality childcare options, educators are qualified to support the needs of children and families, and children are prepared for future learning. And I would just add a comment here. When we're talking about this retention rate, a lot of it, I would encourage you to go out and visit a child care center and spend some time there. It is, it's not easy work by any means. So a lot of times people go into this thinking, oh, I'm going to play with children all day. This is going to be a great job. It's overwhelming. And if they have training and they see how to do it, and there are good ways to work with children and see the benefits that they're doing. I mean, that's one thing I really try to build up is, you know, you're so important because you are doing a very important job. Then that retention rate will, you know, it will impact it. They will stay. So that is what I think. One thing that was mentioned, and I was just recently at a conference, and Kentucky's name was up there, another one of those proud moments, about paying for childcare workers. That was a really thing and has got Kentucky recognized as being a leader in that aspect. So thank you for supporting Kentucky's children, and I am happy to address any questions.
I just want to make one real comment since Bridget shared the percentage of students that are receiving the scholarship. In our program, I would anticipate that there are 90% of our students who are receiving the Kentucky Early Childhood Development Scholarship to either obtain a CDA, director's credential, or degree.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. And we'll bring our last person up for the presentation. Next up is the Little Purples Academy, creating student pathways while retaining staff, with Superintendent Gary Fields. If you could make your way to the table. My hope was that we would have a large amount of time with Mr. Fields, and then time just kind of gets away during committee hearings. So I apologize for that. But I'm very excited. I was talking to Representative Meredith a couple months ago, and he was telling me about this program coming in, and I think it's phenomenal. So very excited to have you here. So please introduce yourself for the record. Make sure the green button is on when you talk into the microphone.
Thank you. I'm batting cleanup, so I'm between you and getting out of here, so I'll be quick. Gary Fields, Superintendent, Bowling Green Independent School District. Excited to be here. Thanks to Representative Riley for giving me a call to come today. First of all, let me start with a thank you. This is not possible without the General Assembly, the funding that you created for LAVEC facilities in the state of Kentucky. And I always want to thank you for that support because it's really important. We received $8.3 million from the Better Kentucky Plan, which you approved for a LAVEC facility. As we began to look at that, we realized that we need to look at what programs did we want. A big issue that started to arise was we were losing staff. We've lost staff from teachers to custodians to cafeteria workers through the course of this school year in a greater number than ever because of childcare difficulties. They couldn't find childcare. We had a social studies teacher at the high school, outstanding teacher, lost her childcare from a relative, couldn't find childcare, resigned mid-year. It was painful and a great loss for our students. So we also knew that we have students who want to go into the child care field, but we can't get them experience because child care facilities don't want the kids in there. They're understaffed. They're having their own issues. So just to give you some brief background on where we are in Warren County, 133,000 residents, 21,000 of those are below the age of 5. We are one of the fastest growing places in Kentucky. Going to add another actual bowling green in the next 10 to 15 years. We're a little nervous about that, where all those folks are going to live and work and go to school. But one of the issues is a lot of young adults are coming in and we're hiring them as teachers, employees, et cetera, and they don't have family in the community. They're new to the community, right? We're attracting them because of our great job opportunities, but they have no support, so they are counting on daycares. Looking at the data, the number of daycare options by zip code, and 42104, where many of our employees live outside in the suburbs of Bowling Green, there are 11 licensed facilities. None of those 11 facilities are all-star rated level 3 or above, which is where you would want your children to go to daycare, where I would want my child to go to daycare. In the 42101, which is internal Bowling Green, a number of churches, monastery schools, et cetera, there are 27 licensed facilities. Only 8 of those are level 3 all-star rated. So that is a big issue to find quality childcare. As we started to look at the LAVEC facility and how are we going to address some of the issues, we talk about partnerships. We have partnerships with a number of businesses in our community. The Medical Center of Bowling Green, the top picture is our students who are phlebotomy techs, nurses assistants, all different types of qualifications that they get in our high school and our healthcare pathway. In the bottom are EMT. They teach EMT dual credit courses to our students. 2 of our students started right after graduation as EMT employees. We have electrical companies, M&L Electric, Scotty's with heavy industrial maintenance simulators, et cetera. So we had to find what are some of the pathways we want to have in this new LAVEC building. And one of the pathways was childcare and who was going to be our partner. And I'll talk about that in a second. We surveyed our employees. We have 650 employees. 90 of them indicated they will need infant and toddler child care in the next 5 years. We know the issue is there. We know they have to find help. What are their concerns? These are their words. Finding an opening. We have been on a wait list for almost a year. It is expensive, and the best daycare has a waiting list. I do not know if there will be a spot for my future child because it seems as though the daycares in Bowling Green are all at capacity. The cost of child care is daunting as a parent-to-be. Additionally, finding somewhere that is trustworthy and has availability is concerning. Those are real words from our employees in our district. Additionally, to show you kind of what a 5-year experienced teacher, that'd be going into their 6th year, a 28-year-old teacher in our district might be newly married, might be starting a family. Their take-home pay at that point is $2,500 a month. Let's say we have a couple that's teaching, that's $5,000 a month. When in Bowling Green and Warren County, the average home price is $268,000 right now. Average cost of infant care is $880 a month. The average cost of child care is $800 a month. One of the other issues our employees face is you can't sign up for 10 months. If you sign up, you have to pay for 12 months. They don't do 10-month contracts. So they're going to pay for that child care year-round. And then in Warren County, 70% of mothers with children under 18 are currently in the workforce. So this really is a family issue that has to be addressed. The issue for us as well is we have students who want to go into childcare. They want to go into teaching. They want to go into social work. A lot of different programs that are available to them in their career path. We have 101 students signed up this fall for our early childhood pathway. They will take classes like early lifespan development, child development services 1 and 2. They get certifications like the Commonwealth Child Care Credential, which is very important to going into the workforce. Kentucky Early Care and Education Orientation. They get training in pediatric abusive head trauma. They get training in CPR from the Red Cross, so they're certified for infant and toddler CPR. So they are immediately employable after graduation. The issue is that because we have limited number of child care facilities in our community that are understaffed and overwhelmed, they can't take our students. So where M&L Electric has students who do apprenticeships, who do internships, and Scotty's and other industries, the medical center that has made opportunities for 16, 17, and 18-year-olds to come into the hospital to get experience before they graduate high school. Our child care facilities couldn't do that. So we had to figure out a way, how are we going to help create the next, not just child care worker, the next child care owner. I heard that today. It was exciting to hear about people opening child care facilities in their homes. Well, we're going to create the individuals in our community that for the next 20, 30, 40 years are going to do that. So Next August, we're going to open the Little Purples Academy. Part of that is through the $8.3 million we received from this General Assembly, and we appreciate. That facility will also house our technology robotics program as well as our industrial maintenance program, which now has 90 students that will double in size to almost 200 students by the time that facility is completed. We're going to partner, we talked about partnership, with the Bowling Green Warren County Community Education. They are the lifeline for families in our community. They provide before school care, after school care, a lot like you heard from the YMCA today, and they provide summer care in our community. This is their 50th year of existence. Also an organization that receives money that flows through our district from the General Assembly. So that when you hear about community education, they are a critical partner. But they are going to operate this facility for us with 66 children from 6 weeks old to 4 years old. So what a great partnership that we're going to have there. Just 2 weeks ago, we found out we received $100,000 from the Community Partnership Grant from the Department of Community-Based Services, an organization that once again is funded by you, so thank you, for a startup of our new daycare. There are a number of organizations around the state that receive that $100,000 seed money for the startup costs because it is very expensive to start up. Our high school students will be there in that child care facility every day that it is open, getting apprenticeship hours, internship hours, and they're going to be employable and going to, once again, work in and run facilities in our community for the next number of decades to come. And finally, it's going to serve a role for us because we're going to have 66 children in that facility that are going to be employee students, or children of employees who may be a cafeteria worker, a bus driver, a teacher. The superintendent's too old to have little ones in there, but hopefully other employees within our district. But we're really excited about that. And the other thing that does, there's a secondary benefit. Those are going to be 66 spots that are going to open in various daycares around Bowling Green and Warren County for other community members who are struggling to find care. So once again, thank you. We think this is an innovative way to look at this. I know some districts already are involved in this, but I encourage them to look at this model because I think it's going to be something that is going to be very important down the road for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited. I wish we could do this in every school district, those who aren't doing it. I love the forward thinking. I represent part of Glendale, so I am also feeling the pressure as a leader there to figure out what we do for workforce, and a big barrier is childcare. Our first question, I believe, does Rep. Riley have a question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Gary, I'm assuming this is on campus, on the main campus. You guys are doing a lot of construction. I
Correct.
know.
It's on our main high school
so it's
campus.
part of all that, doing that. And basically, as I noticed, you're taking school employees. We've talked a lot. Everybody's having workforce problems, and teacher and education is one of those. And I think you probably see this as a pathway to keeping many of your teachers, like you said, you lost your social studies teacher.
It's an outstanding pathway. We haven't set our costs yet. We're still working through those numbers. One of the benefits, though, is that really our cost is going to be the employees in the building, the overhead, the running of the building, the materials. We're utilizing our preschool materials. Our preschool teachers, our GREC, our local co-op, is going to train our staff, so we're all-star certified. So we can cover a lot of those costs to keep the cost down as well. So we really think this is going to be a tremendous benefit to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Co-Chair Carroll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the early childhood educators that you have, they will they be compensated, benefits the same as the teachers within the school district?
Some will. When they go into their senior year, we're going to set up an apprentice program, much like they have with our other industry partners, so where they can make money during part of their day in there. Now, the early times, the first times are there, are just for the experience, part of their coursework.
But your full-time staff that you have, the teachers in the classroom taking care of the kids.
Those are going to be community education employees. So the community education of Bowling Green, Warren County will have those employed.
I see.
And we are contracting with them as a partner to do that.
Okay. Now, Paducah did something similar. They're building a new Head Start facility, and I don't know how, couple hundred, maybe more kids. And so that, I think it is a way throughout the state. And we're not just encouraging schools to do this, but major industry to do it. I mean, as far as attracting employees this day and time, I don't know that you can offer a better benefit than that. So I really hope this catches on, and I appreciate you taking some of this money and putting it in that direction. And I think that's going to set a good example that others will follow. So great work.
And if a business starts a daycare, we're going to have the kids that they can hire. I think that's the other thing we found, and we've really crossed this border in the last 5 years. The best employees in a community are the kids that I hand a diploma to and walk across that stage. They're currently going to school every day. They show up every day. They're making good grades. They're engaged in the community. They're good employees. When they're 22, 24, 25, they've been away from us for a while. They've had a lot of maybe bad jobs, bad experiences. So I think our local employers are really realizing that 18-year-olds are pretty good employees.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing the success of this program in the future months and years to come. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, July 25th, 2023 at 1 p.m. in room 149 of the annex. Do we need a motion for adjournment? A motion for adjournment? So moved. It's done. Thank you all.